I'm going to teach you how to get podcast guests, but more importantly, get the podcast guests that you actually want, the ones that make sense for your show, that can grow your brand and your following, attracting the right people. And this will work for you even if you're completely new to podcasting, you have no following behind you, no brand, and no money. This will still work. I use this exact strategy and framework that I'm going to teach you as a college student when I started my first podcast, and I got some very high profile and influential people on my show as a complete newbie with no following and really nothing to offer these people in return. I still got them on my show because of what I'm going to teach you. And it's still totally possible for you to do today to get almost anyone you want on your podcast. So the first thing that you need to do is to figure out who you actually want on your show. And step number one is building out a place to keep track of all these people. My preferred method is to build something out in Notion, very simple like this, just to keep track of the guest, their email, when you last contacted them, any relevant notes, and their social pages. You can also do this in something like a Google Sheet or the Notes app on your phone. You can literally do this anywhere. Just right now, create the habit of keeping track of everyone that you want to get on your show at some point. I'm sure you have a huge list already. Go actually write those people down. Then it's also great to have this for whenever you go throughout your life, when you're consuming content or you're just meeting people in real life, you're going to get thrown so many people at you that may make sense for your show. So having a place to document that you want them on, why you want them on, and how you contact them is going to help you out a ton. Once you have that built out, I want you to start building the habit of reaching out to people to get good at this. It is a skill. I'm going to teach you the framework, but to get really good at this, you have to do it enough times to figure out what works for you and what works for the kind of people you're messaging, because everyone's very, very different. So I recommend starting with 5+ people per day, every single day, 5 people a day minimum, reaching out to them to get better at this. To actually reach out to people, you need a way to contact them. My preferred method for podcast guests is going to be directly emailing them right to their inbox, their email inbox. But to do that, you have to find their email address. And if it's publicly available, amazing. If it's not, it can be a little harder to find. First, what I want you to do is try Googling their email. If that doesn't work, go to their different social pages. It can sometimes pop up there. But if it's not linked to on any of those places and Google can't help you, you can use a Chrome extension called Hunter. So this Chrome extension right here, hunter.io, that we've linked in the description of this podcast and YouTube video, can help you find people's emails. So when you download this Chrome extension, it's free. You can upgrade, but the free plan will get you what you need here. When you create an account, you can then go over to the person you're trying to get on, go to their LinkedIn, and you can scrape through and sometimes find their email that way. Very often it works. You can also go to their personal website, use the same tool, and it will scrape through, try to find any relevant and connected email, which can very often give you the person's email as well. So any personal website or their LinkedIn, try Hunter to find their email. There will still often be situations where you can't find their email even after trying a tool like Hunter and doing Google search and checking their social pages. In that situation, you want to just message them directly on social. This is why it's important to have a social account for every major platform, because you can take advantage of the messaging tools. But there's also some strategy if you take this route. You want to message them across all of their social media pages, but you want to prioritize their least busy social pages, wherever they have the smallest following, because this is going to be the least competitive environment. And as a creator who has had followings on multiple different social pages, the one that I checked the least was the one that was the most busy because it was just too overwhelming. Most podcasters make the huge mistake of trying to reach people where it's the most busy and they don't get the success that they want. Instead, go to the profiles where they're still active, they're posting content, but they don't have much of a following or the smallest following. It's going to be your best chance to actually get a hold of them. For a lot of people, this is going to be X or LinkedIn. They are gold mines for starting relationships because you can interact with people's content. So they can become familiar with your name and also message them personally. Why that's also great is because even if they don't message you back right away, when you start to build that relationship, they're way more likely to pay attention to your message when it does go to their inbox or when they do see it. So it can really go a long way if you do build the relationship where there's a lot less competition. So outline all of their social pages, but prioritize their least busy ones. Where do they have the smallest amount of following, but they're still active? All right. So this is what you're going to do, whether it's an email or a social page that you're contacting them through. The approach is very, very similar. Here's a messaging framework that I used every single time, and you're going to refine this for yourself and the kind of guest that you want on. If it's an email, of course, you need a subject line. I recommend experimenting with this. And I also have some best practices down below that we'll go over, but let's move on to the next step. So within the framework here, you want, hey, the guest name, And the next step here, which is very important, you want to include a tailored compliment to the potential guest, showing that you've done your research. This shows that you're not a bot, you're not AI, you're not automating this behavior, because people are scanning through and looking for triggers that may make this a bot or may make them think that this is a bot or an automated behavior. And they're instantly training themselves to not pay attention once they make that conclusion. So don't give them that opportunity. Send a message that a bot would almost never be able to send because of how personal it is and how well researched that it is. Make sure you're talking about the things that they're talking about. Go to their social pages, look at what's currently top of mind. What are the key messages that they're pushing, and explain on a level that they're communicating, that you've communicated, that you understand what they're communicating, basically, that you understand the language that they're speaking. Why this is so important is because we're also all trained to only pay attention to the things that we care about, because there's so much information being thrown at us. So if you were talking about something that's highly specific to what they're thinking about every single day, they're just way more likely to pay attention. So this stuff matters so much. So look into what they care about, what are they currently doing, make sure the compliment is all specific to that and tailored to them. It's gonna make it way more successful. And then if you do that, they're gonna continue to read. So then what you want to do is, once you've gotten them to open your email, you've gotten them to read the first bit, you've pumped their tires a little bit, making them feel good, you then want to provide your ask in a very specific, clear, and short way. So you wanna outline exactly what you want from them. So because of this compliment, I think you'd be a great fit for our show. I'd love to have you on. They're 45-minute calls and you can book right here. All right. And then after you've done that, you then want to outline exactly what they get in return. So what do they get in exchange for coming on your show? Even if you're a brand new podcaster, you give someone the opportunity to talk about themselves, and you can't overthink how important that is. People rarely get the opportunity to talk about themselves for 45 minutes straight or 30 minutes straight, whatever it is, even if they're influential. People don't get this opportunity a ton. So that still in and of itself is pretty valuable. And you can take it to another level of value by simply saying, I will also send you the high quality recordings of the audio and video from our conversation for you to use as content, right? So we're saying why we want them, basically, why they're great and amazing, to get them to read on to exactly what we want from them. We're being very clear and direct and not asking for something crazy. We're asking for 45 minutes of time, and then here's why and what they get in return. All of this is really just optimized to get someone to open, read, and give you a yes or a no. That's all we're trying to achieve here, because so many people get stuck in the purgatory of never getting replies. And this is why, because they're not clear and direct and they don't have these boxes checked. And at the end of it, you just want a very clear and easy to access booking link so that they can take action right away to give you the ask that you provided, because they now know exactly what you want. So you've made it easy for them to make a decision. And if the answer is yes, you've made it easy for that to turn into a reality. This structure is so important because even if you get no's, that's still really helpful for you, because that's now some sort of relationship. So as your show grows, as you get more higher influential people on your show, once you start getting yeses, you then follow back up with the people that said no and said, hey, just wanted to see if anything changed in your schedule. We had XYZ on and our audience really loved the conversation. I think that you could provide a ton of similar value to my audience. It would make a lot of sense. Here's the booking link again. So we're literally just trying to optimize this to get in front of the right people, get them to read it, and get them to make a decision, even if that is a no, because that still helps us. That's what we're optimizing towards, and then giving them the booking link so that they can take action right this second, all right? So in the situation where you're reaching with them on their social pages, you don't need a subject line, obviously. But if you're going the email route, which I recommend making priority number one, and then going through all the social pages, in that situation, your subject line is going to be really important. And so here's some common mistakes that people make when writing subject lines. They capitalize all the letters or they use exclamation points, super spammy. They include spam trigger words, and we've linked to a blog article in this podcast/YouTube video that you can access. Using HTML elements like emojis. Plain text is going to be better for deliverability. And there's a few other things. So make sure to read through this list. We've also included it in the description box to not make these mistakes, to increase the chances of getting to people's inboxes and not being viewed as spam by Google and then by the person if you do land in their inbox, okay? So stuff really matters. Experiment with different subject lines. There's no one silver bullet that works all the time for subject lines. So that's why you need to get more reps in to figure out what gets responses, right? And so you have to first get people to read your email, right? And so basically with this structure and this strategy, this has been proven time and time again to get responses. So if you're not getting responses and you're doing this template, it's because your email subject line is off or you're not going into people's inboxes. So it's really important. That's why this is laid out like this, is to optimize for getting responses, even if those are no's. So this is how you can get podcast guests completely free. Everything I've mentioned to this point is free. It's just going to take some time and effort and research, but the effectiveness is going to be crazy. You'll be shocked by how many people say yes. And as you go forward and get more highly influential people on your show and have more social proof, change your outreach to include the examples of the high profile people in your outreach. It's going to improve how many people will say yes, because since other people who are high profile felt comfortable attaching their name to you and your brand, other people are going to feel a lot more comfortable doing the same. So definitely make sure to update this process as you get more wins for your show. All right. And the last way to get podcast guests is a tool that I'll walk through here called Podmatch. All right. So Podmatch is a platform that does exactly as it sounds. It is a connection or a matching platform for podcasters and potential guests. So what you do is you go on this platform and you create a profile for your show, or if you want to be a guest, you go and create a profile for you as the guest. And then it uses their algorithm to connect you with shows that would make sense based on your goals and your expertise. So you come on here, they'll give you 3 matches a day. And then with this, and they're always tailored to who you are and what makes sense for you. You can go through, see the description of the podcast, see their presence on social. And if I want to match with this person, I can click message, explain who I am and why I want to come on. I can click maybe later if I don't want to do that right now, or I can pass if I don't want to go on their show and it's not a good fit for me. So this is a tool I've been using for the last few months, had some success with it, and it's definitely a solid option. It's going to be a lot more straightforward and easier of an option because everyone on here wants to either be on a show or have people on their show, but it does come at a cost. So if you do want to give this a try, I've put a link down below to go and access that. This is a paid alternative. It's going to save you a lot of time and definitely increase your effectiveness. But everything we showed you earlier in this video can be done completely free. And I've gotten some high profile people and celebrities and really influential business people on my podcast using this exact framework that I just teached you. One extra point, since you made it to this deep into the pod, one extra pro tip is you can take all of this to another level in terms of going to their least busy social page. If you also go into their lives, if any of the people you're trying to get on ever go live on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, that is probably the most intimate place where you can reach them very quickly and build a relationship. That's how I got on some very, very famous people onto my show. And it's also how I started a conversation with Steven Bartlett, who was supposed to come on my show. It ended up falling through, but I was able to get into his inbox and start speaking to his assistant, which would have been almost impossible for me to do. But I did it because I got into his live. And why lives work so well is because it's usually their most intimate followers and they really want to look good in front of all of these people. So you kind of have them on the spot a little bit, where if you build a relationship with them, you show that you know what you're talking about and you interact with them on that live, they're going to interact with you because they want to show that they're interacting with their community and they want the content to be better. So if you're helping to make the live better, they're going to interact and go back and forth with you. And then you can also ask them to come on the show there, right? Because that typically it is a conversational thing on live. And so that's a really powerful resource that I use to get multiple podcast guests. I use that to get a famous comedian. I use that to get a famous entrepreneur. And then I use that to almost get Steven Bartlett. And this is while I was a college student. So how you can do this most effectively is whoever your current target is that you want to get on as a guest, set alerts for the social pages that they have for if they go live that you get notified. That way you can jump in right away, start this process of building a relationship and building towards that ask of getting them on your show. Crazy effective. I've not seen people use this because it's a little higher effort, but the success rate is crazy, especially if you're trying to get on some higher profile people. Even people with massive followings, their lives are never that busy or competitive. So it's a really slept on tactic. So this is how you can get podcast guests. Check out the description. We've got some more valuable resources for you. If you just started your podcast and you're looking for a course to help you get up and running, we've also linked our podcast Launchpad course, which teaches you how to start and launch a top 10% podcast in the next 14 days. And this channel is called Podcast Nut, where we teach you how to start, grow, and monetize the show that you want to be running. So I'll see you in the next one.